Today, we're going to dive into the dark side of spirituality, and there are 4 very difficult, subtle traps that you're going to have to look out and make sure that you avoid them at all costs. It's quite likely that you won't avoid these because it seems almost necessary for us to go through in our own path. Nonetheless, we're going to dive into them. If you're interested though, down below we have a free 4-part mini-series. I've made it for you with you in mind. You're more than welcome to sign up for it. It's our Freedom Toolkit. It's just a small little gift to give you a taste of the power of the teachings that we're offering here. And if you're somebody that's lacking structure and commitment, then of course by all means you're more than welcome to apply for the Freedom Blueprint down below. We give Westerners the structure for their onward path of growth, and yeah, if you're interested in that, you can apply for that down below. Let's move into the video. The dark side of spirituality. It's not really dark, you know, it's just we do it. We do it and it causes us pain. So let's dive into it. The first trap that you will experience on your path is the trap of getting high. And no, I don't mean getting high smoking weed, although a lot of you are probably doing that, and that's absolutely fine that you do that. It's definitely a teaching plant. Nonetheless, does it begin to affect our energies at some point? And the answer is yes. And if we're not, implementing the lessons that are learned on the marijuana, for example, then we're not doing it justice, and we're not allowing it to be the teacher that it can be. But we're not actually talking about that. We're talking about getting high in relationship to our own self. If you've had a spiritual awakening or a big blast of Shakti in the system, you'll recognize, won't you, that it makes you high as a kite, and that's wonderful. But we can create an incredible spiritual expectation inside of ourselves that says, I'm not spiritual, or I'm not doing this path right if I'm not high. We have this expectation that I should be high all of the time. And that is not true at all. So get that out of your head, because you will spend years, if you're me, trying to chase that high and continually stay in that high, which you can do so long as you're in isolation. And you come back to earth and come back to people, and then you recognize, oh right, my highness was totally conditional. And so we're here to live in the world, aren't we? And so within that, you can't be high all of the time, and nor should you create this expectation that you should be, and that if you aren't high, that you're not doing this path right, because this is completely wrong and totally not spiritual at all. Number 2, this trap is of spiritual ego. This is probably the most difficult trap to get yourself out of. You've been on this channel with me, so, well, if you haven't, then welcome, and make sure you subscribe down below. Press the bell icon so you get introduced to new videos as and when they come. But most of you have been with me on this channel for a while, and so you know I talk a lot about spiritual ego, mainly because that was my experience of life, and I'm sure that it's your experience too. You end up being in this ivory tower thinking that you're better than everybody because you've had some sort of awakening, but actually you're probably worse than everybody, because that insistence of knowing that you're better than everyone just makes you an arrogant fart, and probably doesn't make you very good company. Now, it's very difficult to see through too, isn't it? Because this spiritual ego has a spiritual sort of visor. It's wearing spiritual clothing, it's in its rags, and it's got its mala beads around its neck. So it's very, because it seems like an authority, doesn't it, in our life? And so it's very difficult to see through. Sometimes it can take the mind of God, or the word of God, and pretend that it's God speaking to you, but it isn't. It's your ego. The ego hasn't changed. It's just that we've had a spiritual awakening and now it's got spiritual clothing on it. It looks like Ramdas, sat cross-legged. And so this can make it very, very difficult to see through. If you've had a big awakening experience, even more so. But there we go, there's that. The 4th trap. Oh yeah, you won't like this one. But I have to say it, as I go deeper on into myself, I see more of myself and what I'm not, and what I've been believing in that I'm not, that isn't true as well. And that is the trap of avoidance into spiritual fantasy. Spiritual beliefs can be dangerous, can't they? Because they're just the same as normal beliefs, which means what? Belief system, BS. It's just a belief. It's just something to hold on to, that your ego can hold on to give you a subtle form of hope or something like this. And I'm not saying life is hopeless. It's not. Of course, believe all you want, but recognize it's just a belief. And if it's a belief, it can't be truth. For it to be true, it has to be experienced, isn't it? And we can hold on to all of these fantasies about spirituality that, in the real light of day, will in time be shown to you not to be real. But for a while, they're like the stabilizers. You know when you ride a bike, and you've got the stabilizers on the back because Big Daddy doesn't necessarily trust you yet to be able to ride freely and not fall over. Well, because of this, also God kind of, or whatever you want to call it, higher intelligence, it knows, that we're not quite strong inside of ourselves in our true spiritual knowledge. We have these beliefs as stabilizers then. It's a mercy, really, for us to be able to have these stabilizers and live through these, and they'll work, because they're sort of software inside of the system, aren't they, that allow an experience to be had that seems like it's really that experience, but in fact there's a deeper truth to it. And after a period of time, we'll probably need another dark night of the soul to recognize that these beliefs again aren't the full answer. So the final one, tough one, huh? The trap of attachment. We can be attached to so many things, and whilst we're attached to these things, we can believe that we're making progress when really we're just going round and round in circles. Perhaps we could say it's more like a helter-skelter, one of those things in the fairground that you go down on your butt, and you're just seeing the same thing from a different perspective, and perhaps there's an argument for that. But attachment, we get so attached to things, don't we? And we really have to have this honest approach on this spiritual journey to be able to lean into the discomfort of not having these attachments fulfilled, or perhaps we have to lean into the discomfort of disattaching, disidentifying with these things that are actually causing us a lot of pain and are also marring the way that we see life. So they're the four things, the four traps that are very difficult to detect inside of ourselves. And if you'd like to go deeper on this path, you're more than welcome to. The link's all down below. I tell you all the time. So thanks very much for listening. Lots of love. I hope it helped. Namaste.